And if you're noticing any of that in yourself, do you do it smoothly? Or is it a jump from one to another? How are you sensing yourself right now, your right side and your left side? The length of your right leg, the length of your left leg, your right and left arms. The line of your spine. So please roll over and lie on your right side. Lift your left leg away from your right leg and see what it's like this afternoon and put it down. So if you're lifting it really slowly, try lifting it quickly. What's different about it? So when you're lifting, check if you're lifting away from your other leg or if you're lifting towards yourself, bringing your knee upward as you lift it. So right now, it's simply away. And how do you sense the weight of your leg? And then rest. Bring your left hand over the top of your head. Notice whether you're really lying on your side. So if your nose is pointing in the direction of your thighs, if your tip of your nose is pointing towards your thighs, then your head is forwards. It's flexed. So try and bring your head in line with your spine, because different configurations make it more biomechanically possible to side bend than others. So now, with your head, left hand holding your head, lift your head and your left leg and put them both down. And just notice, is your head getting any lighter? Are you lifting your head and leg any differently than previously? Pause. Keep your hand over your head. Next time you lift, pay attention to what's happening on your right side. Does anything press into the floor as you lift your head and your leg? And then if you notice something pressing into the floor, could you press that place into the floor and then lift your head in the head and leg? So you initiate the movement by pressing those ribs or that part of your side into the floor. And leave it. Roll over and lie on your left side. So has observing and sensing to other people and talking about that action of lifting your head, has it influenced the way you organize yourself now? So firstly, lift your leg. Notice how you're doing it. There's more of you becoming involved in the lifting of your leg than a few days ago. And does your leg feel lighter or heavier? Okay, leave your leg down and several times lift your head. Put your right hand over the top of your head. Have your head as much as possible in line with your spine. Notice what's pressing into the floor What's happening in your ribs on the right side and the left. And then several times lift your head and your leg together. Feeling what presses. Does it need to press? Would it be possible to lift your head and your leg without anything pressing? Okay, and rest. You can roll over and lie on your back for a moment. But it can be very interesting. So to pay attention to how you get to your back. How do you roll onto your back? How do you roll back to your side? It's part of the lesson. It can be part of the lesson, or it can be the timing for the lesson where you actually lose the lesson because you're doing something to lift your pelvis and heave it in one direction and then lift something away from the floor. So explore rolling to your side like we did the first day. Could you roll back onto your left side? Thought it was going to be a left, right, left, right, left, right, huh? So lie on your left side and lift your left heel only. So you keep your knees together and just lift the heel. Sorry, yes, right. So that means the toes stay touching. But notice what happens as you do that. In the contact of your toes with your left foot, the bones of your foot, your ankle joint, in your knee, in your hip. So it's a movement of your heel in space. But what's happening in the background? What joints are involved to create that movement? Pause. Now lift only your toes away from your left foot. So not your heel, just your toes. So you leave your heels touching and lift your toes and lower them. How small a movement could you do? So you really feel the weight changing, but you feel the skin being the last thing to leave your left foot. Knees are together. Fixed? Shall I put a nail in them? Not completely fixed. Don't forget to rest it back down. Rest it. Let the weight of your right foot settle on your left foot. Really settle before you lift again. So what do you feel in the bones of your lower leg, in your knee joint, and elsewhere? Can you feel the chain of motion? We call it kinematic linkage through the skeleton. The movement links through one bone to the next. And we have that song, you know, the foot bone is connected to the shin bone. Pause on your side. And now alternate. So lift once the heel and lower it. Lift once the toes and lower it. So notice the speed you're going at. Find out, can you think of doing it faster? So it's not about being good or right. It's about knowing what you're doing so that if when you do it faster, it stays nimble, stays coordinated, you keep doing the movement that you think you're doing, or you're doing something else. So now think the movement really, really slowly. So we only know what fast is when we can compare it with something slow. So could you do it like slow motion? Slowest possible movement you could make. And then gradually, slowly think it faster. Or think it faster slowly. And play with that. You can rest when you need to. And Moshe says at first, we can't think it faster than we can do it. If you can think it faster than you did it in actuality, it means your intention in your sensory motor cortex, in your nervous system, have let go of the former pattern and reorganized into a more efficient pattern. Because when we're thinking an action, it tends to be connected with words. And to make the movement faster, you need to disconnect from thinking the words, heel, toe, and feel the coordination of the movement through your proprioceptive senses. Rest a moment. Just stay on your side. Now, could you lift just your right foot, keeping your knees touching, but keep the outside edge of your foot parallel with the floor and lower it parallel to the floor? So that means your toes aren't angled downwards. You're lifting the heel and the toes equally and then putting them down. Next time you lift your foot, keep it in the air and raise once the heel and once the toes without lowering your foot. So you're alternating with your knees stay touching. You lift your foot, keeping the outside edge parallel with the floor, and then keeping your foot in away from your left foot. Lift once the heel and once the toes a little higher. Can you make it go faster? What's the feeling of the movement? And faster? So some people start doing another movement, like bending or flexing the ankle, rather than lifting the heel or the toe. Rest your foot down on the other one and try again doing the alternating movement, keeping your foot in contact. So lifting once your heel, raise, and then once your toes. Heel, toe. And find out if you can do it faster than before. Great. Let that go. Lie on your back. And take a pause. Then the first moment you lie on your back, notice how you sense yourself in contact with the floor. Please come back onto your left side. This time, can you put your left hand underneath your head so that the weight of your head rests in the palm of your left hand? It means your left elbow will point forwards or downwards. Draw your right knee towards you and hold below your kneecap with your right hand. And begin to explore moving your right knee forwards and downwards. So your left hand is under your head. And you can lift your right knee a little away from your left knee, but you're taking your right knee forwards and downwards. So go forwards first. Because what I noticed is people started pushing downwards and forgot the forwards. So if you were looking from above yourself, you could imagine that your knee was tracing an arc in space. From where it begins, it would move away from you in an arc and then curve around and downwards. And so go slowly, because the purpose is to feel the skeletal connection, the linking from your right knee through your right arm into your shoulder girdle, the shoulder blade and clavicle that you now have more awareness of. Maybe you can even sense the direction of your gleno, of the facet on your scapula that the humerus inserts into. And you can feel it. So keep your arm long. You can feel the pulling from your knee through your forearm, through your humerus, into your shoulder joint proper, so to speak, and then traveling from there in several directions into your shoulder blade, drawing your shoulder blade to follow your arm and your clavicle. And then what happens to the ribs underneath and the vertebra of your upper thoracic spine and the lower vertebra of your neck? Okay, rest on your side for a moment. Now lift your right knee towards 12 o'clock with that vertical clock. So you're lying on your side, your right hand is below your kneecap, your right kneecap, and your knee is pointing, the hand of your clock is as close to 12 as you can comfortably go. Your hand holds from the outside of your knee, not the inside. You lift, your foot is away from the floor, your knee is lifted towards the ceiling, not towards your head, towards the ceiling, towards 12 o'clock. Now from there, and you hold below the kneecap. From here, can you push your knee a little bit away from you, downwards, and come back? And then lower your knee a little bit. So we're going towards 12, 11? Yes. So I've got to change my clock that way. 12's there. Yep, the clock's here. Or or think elevator dial, if that makes more sense. Elevator dial. Go elevator dial. I like. Yes. 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 So it's like the clock up there, bigger, below you, 12 is to the ceiling. And then you're moving your knee a little to 11, and then pushing your knee away from you so that it draws your arm in the direction, and find out what places in you resist following the movement of your leg, following your intention. And what's happening in your breathing. What's happening in the between your ribs and the floor on the left side. And then go a little bit towards 10 and push the knee away from you. And then a little towards somewhere between 10 and 9. And now take the hand out from underneath your head. Take the left arm out. You probably want it somewhere in front of you. And continue doing that. So your right knee's moving away from your head and downwards. And that lifts the right shoulder. And it lifts the upper chest from the floor. Which means the lower vertebra of your neck will be pulled up and a little bit sideways. So you might feel your head beginning to be dragged or shifting on the floor in a way that your nose rolls downward. Pardon? That's not inhibited. That's not prohibited. But that we're looking for the lifting to come from the arm and not the muscles of the neck. But if it's uncomfortable on your neck, then you might want to assist that movement. That's it. So your head is more likely to roll on the floor. And the direction is forwards and downwards. So we started with the knee towards 12 o'clock, but keep 12 o'clock is here, but that's not only direction. So come down here. The direction is forwards and downwards. And where's forwards when you're lying on the side? That's it. I'm just going to put my hands on you, Helen, so you can come this way, down, and then let your head roll. That's it. That's it. Maybe this arm is going to need to be in another position. Okay. Roll over and take a rest on your back. And if you're feeling strain in your neck, it means that something's been resisting the direction, a little bit of cross motivation, perhaps. And you've been moving into strain, into effort. By learning to move other parts of yourself to cooperate. And for a lot of people, it's allowing the head to do what a head can do rather than keeping it, the vertebra of the neck, as a solid unit. But it may not be possible today. So you don't have to pay for it today. And yet let you into a little secret. It's very human to go to that limit. But at what cost? What price are you willing to pay? We think we're learning often and we're just strengthening our willpower or our feelings of I can't do it or somebody else maybe can do it better than me. It is. It will limit where you can go, but if that's where you can do it comfortably now, but right then when you showed me that, you were working really hard in your neck. Your neck and your shoulder were working really hard. Yeah. Well, the muscles that are in the shoulder attached to the neck. So they could be working, trying to lift the head, but straining on the upper arm. Roll over and lie on the other side. So if it's easier for you, you can hold somewhere else on your leg. We'll loosen the constraints. So if it's easier for you to hold your shin or your ankle, biomechanically it does something different, but sometimes we loosen the constraints in order for you to learn or comprehend the pattern. So put your left hand below the kneecap or hold your lower shin or whatever part of yourself you want. Start with your right arm forwards and bring your leg towards 12 o'clock. Move it a little downwards, as if you wanted to put the sole of your foot on the floor from 12 o'clock. And then bring it back a little bit and then take it to little towards 1 o'clock. Notice your breathing. So if you stop your breath, it can be that that's part of the difficulty that you're creating for yourself without realizing it. So at each minute of the hour, move your knee downwards and away from you and feel what could you do with your head and your breathing and your left shoulder, your right side, your entire self, particularly your head. So let's try it. Press the right side of your head near your, above and behind your right ear to the surface that you're on. Glue it and try and move your knee away from you. Just see, do you feel effort sooner? Do you feel more resistance more quickly? So the suggestion was to glue the right temple a little bit above and behind your right ear to the floor and try and do the movement and see if you feel strain quicker. Yeah. Your leg could feel heavier, could be that you feel it in your neck, where each one of you feels it can vary a little bit. Okay, now this time as you go through the hours, then you feel a pull coming from your knee through that beautiful shoulder that you got such a lovely image of now, and clavicle and shoulder blade. Can you think that your nose is going to roll downwards towards the floor? So the closer you go towards 3 o'clock, the more your head rolls so that your nose turns towards the floor. Oh, depends. Should your head stay on the ground? Depends how far your knee goes downwards. But keep your head as low as possible to the ground. So the knee is going forwards and downwards. So there's two components of direction here. And if you lose one of them, it changes what happens through your torso. So it's not the foot going to the buttock. It's the knee going downwards away from your head. You can hold on to the shin, but it's the knee going downwards away from the head. That's it. Your right arm needs to be in a different place. No, the other right arm. That's it. Okay. Leave it. Rest on your back, please. Bend your knees, bring both knees over your torso. Hold on to your right knee below your kneecap with your right hand, your left knee below the kneecap with your left hand. And very slowly begin to roll. So open your right knee to the right and roll to the right. And as you roll to the right, take your left knee downwards and away from you. And then bring it back over your abdomen and roll to the left. And as you roll to the left, take your right knee downwards and away from you. And maybe you don't think of rolling all the way to your side, but the knee, the upper knee is when you move towards the opposite side, moves downwards and away from you, drawing your shoulder, the upper shoulder downwards. And then when you roll to the other side, you do the same kind of movement. The upper knee moves downwards and away from you. Let your head roll towards the floor, your nose turn towards the floor of the side that you're rolling towards. And your upper knee is moving downwards and away from you. Your lower knee might even come a little bit towards you. And then you might find yourself starting to move into another orientation. But you don't have to succeed today. But you know, babies struggle sometimes. There's this thing that babies don't do things that aren't comfortable for them, but sometimes babies grunt. Changing, constantly fluid, the distance between your knees. But when you come down to the side, so because the timing and the coordination for each person that suits their body, distances, relationships is a little different. So there is no right formula, but there's a continuum of possibilities. But so if the more you think of downwards, the better. If you bring your upper knee too close to the floor, it can change how the weight of your leg, the upper leg, can assist you to roll. But if you hold it too close to the ceiling, to 12, that also changes the dynamic, the biomechanics. Babies do get frustrated. They want something, they can't have it, they can't get it, and it's wah. So keep your head low to the ground. Your nose turns to the floor. And you're trying to sense this feel, this connection. The pulling of your knee downward, drawing through the bones of your arm, your skeleton, in a way that begins to roll you more and more to the side, and you might find yourself even coming towards bringing your head away from the floor and find yourself in another orientation. So you can hold a different place in your leg, on your leg. Don't lift your head. Leave your head low. So that underneath arm is the one that's So now more and more of you finding the way of rolling, holding your knees, and finding yourself coming up to sitting. But there's more. But not for today. So lengthen your legs. Lengthen your legs. Lie on your back. I don't remember who once told me this, but there's a fine line between feeling shortchanged, like you didn't get what you wanted, and being left with wanting more, but wanting more in a way that there's an eagerness or a keenness to go searching for it. And I think it's an art to find that for ourselves, and it's an art for a practitioner to find that balance for when you're working with someone one-on-one. So notice what your print on the floor is like now. So everybody that I see in my private practice, learning how to roll is fundamental, and it makes such a difference in life. We roll out of bed. It's a component of turning, of shifting our weight, of so many actions in day-to-day life. And yet it's amazing how many people function without it, and not so well, in ways that they easily hurt themselves because they struggle, because they strain. But notice how you sense yourself now. And then roll yourself to one side. Bring yourself up to sitting, up to standing. And take a moment to see if you can notice any changes in your standing. So you remember your contact with the floor. How does that come up? Does that come up with you? Can you notice what you noticed in your way of lying that was different? Can you notice that in your standing? And then when you're ready, investigate how it feels to walk. And have a nice evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.